thank you for staying. 20 minutes to write a MySQL shell plugin, and you will see I don't even need that much, I guess. So who never heard about MySQL shell? Never? Oh, good. You should.
I've used it on other databases.
The MySQL shell?
No, shells.
Yeah, but here is MySQL shell. So unfortunately, I won't talk too much about the shell, right? But I will show you how it works, because I was expecting that a lot of people knew MySQL shell. If you want to know much more about MySQL shell, I wrote a lot of stuff on my blog, and I'm from Belgium, so I'm used to the Belgium water that you all had last night, so that's why I'm still up at the end of the day. So writing a plugin. To write a plugin, there are some steps that we need to think about, and the first one is the most complicated for me, I guess. It's the idea. What should my plugin do, right? And most of the plugins I'm sharing on GitHub are because people are asking questions on the MySQL community Slack, on the MySQL forums, or at the events, and then they say, oh, I'm trying to do this, and I don't know how to do it. Then I say, oh yeah, well, I'll make a shell to make it easy for you. Then, when you have an ID, you say, oh, I will create this plugin, you need to find the programming language. So after that, you need to define a file structure that I will show you. Then writing the code, which is not that complicated, I guess, and then testing it. Testing it can be more complicated when you integrate multiple stuff in your shell plugin. For example, I have shell plugin that shows that interact directly with the MySQL router, or shell plugins that configure proxy SQL that we heard about earlier today. So we can do a lot of stuff with the shell. So the ID, this is the most complicated part. So I was thinking, what could I show, and that won't take me ages to code for the event. So our plugin will take a variable, so as an entry, right, as an argument, and it will display all the information about that, because maybe, as you know, we keep some information about variables and that are possible to find in the in performance schema. So we're gonna play like that. So this is the ID for today. Then the language. I'm a very poor JavaScript guy. My friends, knowing JavaScript, told me it's because I'm too old that I don't get it. But don't get it. So I'm not able to write anything in JavaScript. All this mode, asynchronous mode. I'm still, I learned COBOL at school. So sorry, guys. Yeah. Do you know JavaScript?
Yeah.
Oh, you're a sick man. You think you know it, right? Yeah. Yeah. But Java is not for me either, right? So, I choose Python, right? So this is JavaScript still a mystery for me. Let's go write it in Python, and I think it's easy. And I like the Python dev room, so they are my friends. So I will do it in Python.
Python 2, right?
3. Sorry, I'm not that old. So the plugin, we need to put it in our user home directory .mysqlsh, then plugin, and then the extension there. So this is where it should be located, and this is the files we need to have. Init to create so underscore init underscore pi, mostly empty. This is just to make our object. Then MySQLsh plugin common. You should not write it. I will provide it to you, and I use the same every time for every plugin. It's just registration and stuff like that. Then usually I use a directory to put my all the code that will be related to my plugin. But it can be only one file. But I like to use one directory, so I will call it FOSDEM. Then inside, again, this init to be able to make an instance of this object. Then a real init.py with some code in it, registration of the variables and the methods, and then some files, and I will call it variables because this is what we're gonna use today, right? So the first one, it's an empty file, very easy to do. I think everybody can do it. The other one, yeah, it will you can find it on GitHub, or you can copy it. Let's say I will show you what's in it, and it has all the registration of the plugin for the shell, so you don't need to do that every time you call the shell, right? Then the code of our plugin, init file again, always empty. So again, something very easy to do, and then the method registration. So all the methods we're going to create in the real code, we need to register it, because something very nice with the plugin infrastructure of the shell is that it will create, for example, all the help for me. So I don't need to write all that. So as soon as I will register my methods, it will create the help, and I will show you how it works. So other than that, we just need to code, right? So let's code together. So this is a live demo. I already know Kenny will say, oh, this is why it takes 20 minutes, because I'm very slow to write on my keyboard but let's try it. We're gonna do it, no worries. Can you read it? Seems so, right? Woohoo. So the first thing I just said was to have to download the MySQL SH plugin common. I downloaded it earlier on my machine because the network, I was not able to use the Wi-Fi here. So you go in MySQL sh.plugin /plugin, so I'm in directory, empty one, right? And I will create also here my extension folder and the name of the plugin we're going to create today. Okay, FOSDEM. Then we will go in the extension. Here you do the wget to get the file, but I will copy it from my home directory, MySQL sh. Yeah, I hope you are a developer, and it's a developer conference, so I wanted to make a bit more, some code, because we haven't discussed a lot of code today already still, right? So here's the file. Let's have a look. What's in it? Well, let's do. So it registers the plugins that you're going to create, and this is all the information about the type. So it has just this method about the registration and some help, and that's it. So it just do the registration of your object of the plugin in the shell. So after that, remember, we go in. I forgot. We also need a very complicated file. I hope you will be able to follow. This one, empty, done. That was easy. This is just pure Python stuff. Done, easy. So now we're going to create our init file for our module itself, right? For the plugin we are creating. So of course we can create whatever we want here. I always give the name and then some comment, but we won't do that. So we need to call MySQL sh plugins common. We're going to import the registration of the plugin. Register plugin, right? And because I know it, because I already tried it, you will also import some of the function that all the elements you're going to do. So usually you do that after, when you create it, but for a gain of time. So I will go in my object, so in my plugin FOSDEM, and I want to import variables. So it's a method inside, and I will call it variables plug. Okay, and then we register everything. This is where the magic happens, because we can give a name. Usually, even if I write Python, when I register my plugin, I always use the JavaScript notation, because this is easy. And after that, I don't care if I call, because all the plugins that you created, you can create them as if it was, you can call them as if it was JavaScript or Python. All the framework will abstract that for you. So if you create everything in Python and then you call you use everything in JavaScript, it will work. And this is what I usually do. I will copy paste because I'm very slow. And we're going to discuss what I've done. And also it will, let's see, even for copy pasting I'm bad. Yoo-hoo. So what I'm doing here, some information. So here I will say, okay, I will call this module I've created, and then I will call that method. The method is get variable info, and we're going to create it together after. Some information about it, some parameters, one only, which is, I will call it variable, what it is, so give some information about what type is it required, because sometimes you can say, oh, I want parameters, but maybe are not needed, so you can say it's not required. And then the full plugin information. The plugin is called FOSDEM and what it does. That's it. So this is just in the init, so not complicated, just registered all the methods. So now the real code will be in our variables.py. So here is where we're going to create the code. So first thing to do, we just import MySQL sh. So MySQL shell module to be able to make all the calls we need. Then we create our method, the only method we're going to use in this plugin, which is get variables info. The parameters we give, and some session if we want to add, but usually we don't. We leave it at none. And if there is, we check here because we get from the global shell if we are connected to a MySQL server, we're going to use that connection to do it. If not, we could create one. But here we use the one we are created, and if not, it will complain. I will not create one in my plugin, but it's possible that you could do that if you want. When you have created that, the magic, let's call it like that, or the only code, complicated in this case, it's the query. So I want to find that information for information schema, right? And then play with the output and show it to the people. And then it's just some Python processing this information, right? So what we do, so we do the SQL, we check if we got some information. We can also use wildcards. So if I'm searching for some variable with a wildcard name, it will say, oh, I found at least 3 variables that match the query you are looking for. And then for each of them, I'm looking if these are the default when it's compiled. Are they being changed by the session? Are they being changed as a global? Are they being persisted? Because in MySQL 8, you can persist variable without modifying the myCNF. All that information, we can see it, and that's it. And the plugin is created, very small files, and yeah, you don't see maybe at the end, and nothing else. Every time I will run the shell, right? So let's connect to my machine. You see? So yeah, let's see. Can you see at the back or? So I'm connected to my machine. If you have some error here, like you make a syntax error or typo, you will have an error message that tells you, thank you, that tells you that you need to check in the error log of the MySQL shell. It shows you where it is to find what's going on, because you may have created some syntax error or whatever. So I wrote the shell, my plugin in Python, like I said, right? But I can also call it, you see? Yeah, you don't see because, let's see if I can make it, I will make it shorter here if I find my mouse, so it will be better for you. So extension, the tab, it says FOSDEM. Tab, the method I have for it, which are get variables or help. I can also do this, and it gives me that info. I am in JavaScript. I can go in Python and call exactly the same way. And now you can see the information, the call here, the syntax of the name of the function is not exactly the same because it takes the default Python syntax, right? So let's try to see what happens to that. So first, with the help, it gives me, oh, you have a plugin now. This is all the plugins I had on the machine I did the test. And you have also the FOSDEM demo test. Then for FOSDEM itself, you can have a help. Again, you don't have to code that. All the framework, the MySQL shell framework gives you that. And then you have information also for all the methods that you have in your plugin. And when we test it, so I want to test default, find a variable called default with the wildcard and plugin. If on one variable, it gives you the name, and it says, okay, this was MySQL native password, and it's global, and it was set in etc myCNF. So this is the information that you got from this plugin. Another one, binlog format, is okay, I found one variable, the name is binlog format, the row, it's set to row, it has been persisted. Where is it persisted? You have the file, and as it is was persisted, it tells you also, okay, it's root at localhost that the 12th of April did that persist information. So the shell, it's very nice to use the shell for DBAs or junior DBAs. So the senior DBA can create plenty of functions, plenty of plugins to help the junior DBA to do their job easily without, because here it's a very easy one to show you in a very little amount of time, but you can do that much more complicated to find. And I have plenty of them to, already available, and pull requests are welcome also, but I will show you after the GitHub tree. So when there is multiple variables, it also works like that, and it gives you every time what's the value, if it was the default value, if it was compiled or not. You will get all that information. So the pull requests are welcome. Pull request or feature request, because like I said, the most complicated for me was the ID. So if you have IDs to improve the shell, just let me know. Put it there, and thank you. That's it for me. I really invite you to go check that GitHub repo, because we will see very cool plugins that took more than 20 minutes to write that can be very useful. Thank you. Yeah, don't go away. I will give the goodies. Too late.